So how do we remember a leader? Is it by what they said they did, or is it by what history says they did? Today we're going to dive into that very question by looking at one of the most polarizing figures out there, Ferdinand Marcos of the Philippines.
And we're starting with his own words, just 5 of them, but man, do they pack a punch. I saved the Republic. Think about that. That's not just, a casual comment. That's him summing up his entire time in power. That's his final word on his legacy.
Yeah, this isn't just a statement. It's bigger than that. It's a proclamation, right? He's deliberately putting himself out there as the guy who saved the entire country. But what does that even mean?
I mean, if you're going to claim you saved a republic, you're basically saying it was about to fall apart, right? And that's exactly what Marcos argued. He pointed to threats like communist insurgencies and social chaos and said, hey, I was the only one who could stop this disaster from happening.
And when you look at the word savior, it's pretty straightforward. A savior is someone who rescues something from total ruin. So with that one phrase, Marcos wasn't just saying, I was a decent president. No. He was painting himself as this epic hero, the one absolute rescuer of an entire nation.
And that's the key thing to get here. This is a leader trying to write his own legacy, his own final story. That one sentence, that's supposed to be the bottom line. It's the version of history he wanted everyone to remember.
But a leader's own words are never the whole story, are they? So now let's turn to our source material, the Chronicles of Ferdinand Marcos, because it gives us a very different take. It doesn't just have his quote, it also has these notes from the person writing the chronicle.
And this is where things get really complicated, because the chronicle gives its own summary of the time. And you won't find words like savior or rescue in there, not at all. Instead, it boils it all down to just 4 words.
The first word, martial law. That's when democracy basically gets put on pause. Newspapers get shut down, anyone who speaks out is silenced, and the military takes over. A pretty stark contrast to saving the Republic, wouldn't you say?
Next up, the Chronicle's summary just says, killings. Another incredibly heavy word. It points to this really grim side of his rule. Real violence, real loss of life. It adds a whole other brutal dimension to the story.
The third word, corruption. We're talking about massive accusations that the country's money was basically being stolen on a systemic level. So the picture being painted here isn't one of a country being saved, but one being, taken advantage of.
And the last word the Chronicle uses to sum it all up? Dictatorship. I mean, that word is the complete opposite of what a republic is supposed to be. It's about one person having all the power, not about preserving freedom for everyone.
So where does that leave us? We've got 2 totally different stories, and they both come from the same source material. You've got the leader's heroic version on one side, and then these incredibly dark, damning notes from the Chronicle on the other. And here it is, side by side. The proclamation, I saved the Republic, and the Chronicle's notes, martial law, killings, corruption, dictatorship. The difference between those 2 versions of reality, it's just massive. You can't ignore it.
So this is the puzzle, right? We're talking about the same leader, the same time in history, but it's like we're looking at it through 2 completely different windows. One shows a hero who saved the day. The other shows something much, much darker.
Which brings us to a really big question. And it's not just about Marcos. When what a leader says they did is so different from what the record shows they did, which story wins? Which one becomes the truth? It's something to really chew on. Thanks for digging into this with us.